Now, I have a question that I wanted to ask you for a long time. How did Joel Salatin come to use Fertrell? We have, I would say that 9 out of 10 people who call us say, well, I was online reading I was reading a book by Joel Salatin and he says he used Fertrell. So I searched Fertrell and you distribute it in Canada. How did Joel find you? How did that go?
So this really goes to the history of Poultry NutriBalancer, which is, I started making it for a local farmer here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. He was a longtime friend of Fertrell's and mine. Mm-hmm. So started there. And then a farmer in Ohio who was friends with the farmer in Pennsylvania called and said, hey, what are you doing? We're having problems with our chickens, on and on and on. So, Jake told him what he was using and Dale started using it, and Dale got a hold of me for formulas and all that. And then this was all happening in 96. So it started February 96 was Poultry NutriBalancer as we know it now. Mm-hmm. Then in the summer of 96, the guy in Ohio started using it for both his layers and his broilers. Mm-hmm. And sometime in late 96, in the fall of 96, towards the end of the year, mm-hmm. Farmer Dale in Ohio was following the Joel Salatin method. He called Joel and said, Joel, you got to try this. He goes, I've been doing your formula and raising broilers and, all that. And these were the problems I was having. He said, I switched over to this, mm-hmm. An all natural company, supports organic and regenerative and all that. And so Joel contacts me, and I have no idea who Joel Salatin is at this point. So he contacts me sometime around February of 1997. And he says, hey, I'm going to be at the Acres conference. This is back when they had an East, a West, and a Central. So they had 3 conferences. He's going to be at the Acres East, right, in March. And he wanted to know if he could pick up a few bags of Poultry NutriBalancer. And I said, sure, I can bring it along to the conference. Mm-hmm. So, I did, but the Acres program guide comes out, right? And here's Joel Salatin, keynote speaker. Here's Joel Salatin, pastured poultry guru. Here's, like he's walking on water. And all of a sudden my knees get shaky and I'm like, oh no, what did I get myself into? So I got him rations printed out and I took the 3 bags of Poultry NutriBalancer down and, he wrote me a check and loaded it in the back of his car and he took it back to Swope, Virginia. Now, he did his own side-by-side field trials. He had like 3 things going on. He did like Willard's water in combination with what he had been doing. He tried the Poultry NutriBalancer, mm-hmm. right? He didn't even get halfway through the first field trial and he saw like twice the size of broilers and half the mortality. And, and these are the early March batches. I mean, these are the early spring batches in, mm-hmm. Swope, Virginia. Mm-hmm. And then he continued on. He did the next field trial and okay, so he's going to try Willard's water with Poultry NutriBalancer. And he tried a couple of different things and still, hands down, he was most impressed with what he was seeing with the Fertrell Poultry NutriBalancer. Right. And that's the spring of 97 is how we all got started. And then, he got so excited and bubbly about his new findings that he went and told the whole world what he was doing, right? Put it in his book and rewrote the book. And, so yeah, it's been a great roller coaster ride since meeting Joel. And,
yeah. No, I'd say that a lot of people come to us because of him. They want to make his ration or they read his book and he's talking about it. I mean, I'm reading his last one. It's, what is it called? Polyface Micro, I think, and he talks about it in there. He says, this is where I buy my minerals. I don't want to cheap out. It makes a huge difference. So when I have an issue with a ration, I just call Fertrell. And that's what he's saying. So, but a lot of people pick up on that, and that's how they find us.
Yeah, this was 25 years working with Polyface and Joel and the crew down there. then it was, I don't know how many years after that. It's been at least 15 now. So somewhere, 10 years into it, by accident, he found, I think it was it one of the sheep or one of the beef? But anyway, somehow one of them got into, got access to a bag of poultry NutriBalancer and just started eating it, right? And he's like, well, if they eat it, they must like it, or they must need it, right? So then he starts mixing poultry NutriBalancer with Thorvin kelp and some extra salt, and so now. So I think he hasn't told me that it's changed, but that's pretty much his mineral program for everything: sheep, beef, everything on the farm. Free choice mineral. That's what he's offering them.
So anybody who needs free choice, that's what he does. And so the poultry, I guess it would still be mixed in his ration, and the swine would still be the swine grower in his swine ration.
Yep. Yeah, that didn't change. Yeah, his poultry and his swine are still prepared feeds, at a local non-GMO feed mill. But yeah, for all the ruminants who don't get grain or don't get supplementation.
Right.
Yeah, and anecdotally, that first year when he did that P&B kelp salt mix for free choice.
Right.
I can't remember the numbers perfectly, so don't hold me to this, okay? But there was somewhere close to a 10% carcass weight increase on his beef animals.
Right.
From the previous year. Now, there's a lot that can go into that. Different cows, different growing season, different whatever. But he also said, or Daniel said, when they went to that as their receiving program and feeding that mineral all the way through, I think that was the first year that they did not lose any stocker cattle that they had bought from the auction to finish on grass. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's all, again, it's anecdotal. It's one year to the next. It's different managers. It's different cattle, different, all that. But it was pretty exciting stuff. And then for a little while, Joel traveled all over the world. I'm getting calls from Australia and I'm getting calls from all over the place. Hey, how do I get this stuff? He's good at getting people really excited about what he's excited about. So,
well, and that's understandable. I mean, what he's doing is very exciting. You see any of his videos, what he's doing there, what he has accomplished. You read any of his books. I mean, adding, for example, just adding the amount of soil he has on his property that was just, I mean, maybe not a pile of rocks, but it was pretty barren. And you can see his place. It's quite thriving. It's green. It's lush.
He's seen huge differences. And I believe I heard Joel make the statement, and people need to ask him this for sure, but he felt like his soils were getting better just with running cattle and chickens and all that anyway. But when they got healthier and he started using poultry NutriBalancer, he saw a bigger jump in clovers and legumes and what was growing in the sward. And he felt like he just kind of jumped a few extra notches, when he made that switch over. So
that's interesting.
I believe I heard him say that, at some point, but it's, that's been years ago. So I may not be 100% correct. I'm not, don't take that to the bank, but I'm pretty sure I heard him say that, when he made the switch over to poultry NutriBalancer, that he also saw a significant change in his pastures, and what was growing out there.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. It could be due to a few things. Maybe the animals were also getting more kelp, and kelp is.
Well, they were also getting more probiotics. Yeah. So some of those probiotics, so his soil microbiology would have gone up drastically.
Right.
Right. I mean, so people feed probiotics, and I don't know that they fully understand what probiotics or direct fed microbials are actually doing. So in every dropping of manure, regardless of the animal, right? Cows, chickens, pigs, sheep, whatever, there's a certain amount of bacteria that are coming out of the digestive tract with that manure.
Right.
Now, when you're feeding probiotics, you're increasing the amount of bacteria, live bacteria in that manure.
Right.
So the probiotics go in and they work throughout the digestive tract, whether it's in the rumen, whether it's in the gut, whatever. But probiotics do aid in digestion, but more so what people don't fully kind of wrap their head around is the probiotics that we're feeding to animals only in part break down cellulose and fibers and starches, but they are the food for the natural bacteria in the gut. Okay. So kind of like us eating yogurt, right? So it goes in, yes, it feeds the gut, but what it's really doing is it's feeding all the other beneficial microorganisms within our digestive tract to get us back to being healthy. So whether it's kefir, yogurt, whatever, and the same probiotics or direct fed microbials that are used for making yogurt are also the primaries in like our probiotics that go in Poultry NutriBalancer and all of our mineral mixes. So I've actually had farmers take a pinch of our direct fed microbials and use that as a yogurt starter at home. They take their own milk, they put a pinch in, right? They give it however many hours or days to turn to yogurt, and it works fine. So yeah,
that's interesting.
So it's a small world when you think. It's a huge world on the microbiology level, but it's also that circle of life is actually smaller than we think it is, and how everything interacts with everything.
Yes. But we saw a huge improvement in our garden. We've been, when we got here, the place where we put our garden was just kind of it was a sick lawn. So there was some kind of a grass on it. It wasn't even really your typical grass lawn. It was dry, had lots of ants on it. And so we worked it deep because it needed to be really worked. It was just so compacted and all that. So I started working with worm castings and Fertrell kelp. I did some zeolite to try to aerate that as well. So that was for 2 years. And I mean, it produced more than what I was expecting, but it wasn't all that great. And then during all that time, we were able to actually have our compost pile with chicken manure and bedding and all that in it. And we applied that last fall, just before the winter, because it was ready. And you should see the soil now. It's so nice, so fluffy, and everything is growing. It's like, it's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy. So, but it's taken 3 years. Yeah. Now our chickens have P&B. I feed them like kefir. When I have extra kefir grains, they get it. So, I mean, there is probiotics going on there. And no, it makes a big difference.